Destiny, what's your PDM?
AI might be able to generate things that are just like literally can't be contemplated by the human mind.
But what about Mark Andreessen saying, it's just math?
I hate that guy more than anybody else on the planet. So whatever that guy says, I have the opposite opinion.
Given how far you've come on the doom train already, why aren't you at least giving it 1%?
I just haven't seen anything where I'm like, oh my God, that could be a threat to humanity. I'm vibing that out just because I haven't seen it yet. Like I said, there could be a story that breaks tomorrow. Where I'm like, oof, we have to do something crazy.
I don't think your vibes are wrong. My claim is that we're going to see the trajectory go up, 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 but then totally reverses and goes to hell.
Usually when a problem is recognized, we have a lot of time to act on that problem. But if the AGI question flips that, then we might be in a really spooky world.
What is then your optimism that, okay, well, we'll still get a handle on AI that's more capable than our brains, like we'll somehow have our brains keep it under control and not die? Like
90% is my optimism. Okay. But that's because I have to be optimistic about the outcome of the human race because I'm a human and I have to be.
I guess I'll ask one last time, based on our whole conversation, what is your P of AI doom in the next 20 years? Welcome to Doom Debates. Stephen Bennell, better known as Destiny, is one of the most influential political streamers and debaters online, with a career spanning over 15 years and millions of followers across platforms. His debating style emphasizes logical consistency and calling out bad faith argumentation, which has made him both beloved and controversial depending on who's watching. Beyond politics, he's engaged substantively with philosophical topics including ethics, epistemology, and more recently, AI. So today, I'm excited to talk to Destiny about the trajectory of AI and get his perspective on the various existential risk arguments, which I call riding the doom train. Destiny, welcome to Doom Debates.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So I know the first thing you said to me is that you don't have a super strong position on the whole AI doom argument. Is that fair to say, or how would you summarize your overall position?
Yeah, I think I'm just not super well read into the arguments on both sides. I've had friends who are kind of like, I guess, in or near the rationalist community. I know a lot of them talk about AI alignment and how doomer or not doomer people should be, but I just haven't dug into it too much yet. I don't have like an opinion that makes me view a lot of the AI stuff as being so substantially different in kind than a lot of the other technological improvements from the past.
Oh, for sure. Well, maybe if I throw some of these arguments by you, then we'll at least see the beginnings of an opinion.
Sure.
And you're happy to take on the challenge of riding the doom train in this conversation, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, great. And if I just had to ask you to give me a wild guess, you could be off by a factor of 10. But I got to ask you the biggest question of the show.
P-doom, P-doom, what's your P-doom? What's your P-doom? What's your P-doom?
Destiny, what's your P-doom?
This is what probability of the entire planet being destroyed by a general AI, or what is the...
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, so doom is a variable definition. So roughly think about like permanently extinguishing the future of humanity.
And then what's our time frame on this? And is this just limited to AI, or...
If you really think that there's other forms of doom that are more salient than AI, you can mention those. So you can kind of take it wherever you want.
I guess in terms of like total overall, like actual extinction level stuff. So like there are 0 humans remaining from AI or any other causes. My probability on that would be quite low. Like I would say less than 1% in the next 100 years. In terms of like mass death events where, like 1% of humanity or less than 10% of humanity is alive, over the next 100 years, I would also be quite low on that, probably like less than 5%.
Just for some perspective, that famous statement on AI risk from 2023 that says mitigating the risk of extinction from AI should be a global priority alongside other societal scale risks such as pandemics and nuclear war. Would you sign that statement?
Yeah, I'm generally pro any statement that limits the risk of extinction level events, yeah.
So you're not super dismissive, because some people are like, look, AI risk is clearly 0.1% or lower, so it just doesn't deserve that much mind share. But it sounds like you're a step above those types, right?
Well, at the very least, it's commanding massive shares of the market right now. So, it's probably worth paying attention to, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I remember a couple years ago, you were at the Manifest conference and you had a chat on stage with Eliezer Yudkowsky. I wanted to ask you, have you read much of Eliezer Yudkowsky or Less Wrong?
Not too much. I read Scott's blog, but past that, not too much.
A shout out to Scott Alexander, Astral Codex 10. Before we kind of take it from scratch and ride the doom train and see all the different arguments, I wanted to revisit one video that I found in 2017 where you're just hanging out with your fans and they're throwing a bunch of AI doom arguments at you. And I guess at this point, it was like 9 years ago. So kind of a really long time span in the sense of AI progress.
But by the time we're building AIs that are capable of self-improvement, we'll have worked so hard to get there that we will know that that's what we're creating. It's not like we're going to randomly be creating a thing that's learning fucking how to play the Atari, and then it's like, oh my god, but if I nuke Russia, I'm going to become infinitely more intelligent. Like, that's not going to happen.
I remember somebody was saying in the conversation, oh, there's this new company, OpenAI, they might be building something interesting. So it was really like the dawn, the primordial soup of the modern AI era. And it's interesting to revisit that conversation. One of the quotes I picked out is that you mentioned experts think AI is 30 to 50 years off.
When you say quite soon means that experts estimate 30 to 50 years off.
You're not even wrong, because if you looked at prediction markets at the time, they were saying something like, 2050, 2060. Prediction markets have changed their mind since then. Now they're saying it's more like 7 years off. Have you changed your mind?
Are we talking about like a general AI that can adapt and improve itself and do like a wide range of tasks? Or are we talking about like increasingly specialized, I guess like helper tools for like coding and whatnot?
So let's call it the AGI threshold, like AI that's qualified to do literally any human job.
Man, that's a hard, I'd say it feels like when we say any human job, one component that seems to be missing that we haven't, I guess some people are making improvements on it, is like the hardware aspect. Like I feel like it still exists in a very software-ish world, but in terms of being able to replace or be competent in a lot of human-related jobs, I kind of look at it as like that 80-20 thing. Like I feel like there's a whole bunch of jobs that are probably under threat or already kind of being actively replaced right now. And then there's some smaller percentage of jobs that are probably going to be significantly harder to replace. I don't know if the smaller percentage of jobs are going to be replaced within like 7 to 10 years. But I think for all the improvements that AI can make to do a lot of like the help with coding and everything else, like those jobs probably within like 7 to 10 years. So to be more grounded. So for very hard to replace jobs, things like entertainment, so like having like an actor or having like a musician or whatever, not just like a AI recorded music, but like an actual person on screen. I feel like that stuff is still very, very far away. Or for having like creative directors who can choose, like a direction for their company or direction for art or whatever, that stuff is still very far away. But for having people or AI that can just do art or create music, like in a very convincing way. I mean, people would argue that this already exists now. I would say probably within 7 to 10 years for that. That seems reasonable, yeah.
30 to 50 years, let's say a decade has passed. So if you're fully consistent with your past self, you'd be like, oh yeah, we got at least another 20 years before AI can really do everything that humans can do. Would you shift the timeline at all, or are you like fully consistent with your past self?
I feel like any guess for anything that's over 10 years away is like almost shooting in the dark, because 10 years these days in technological times is a long time. So, I mean, if anything would have happened, I would have been accelerating my time frame, because I feel like the AI improvements have been leaps and bounds over what people thought would happen, especially with, I think it was ChatGPT 3 was the one that came out where people were like, oh, whoa, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening here that we didn't really think. So if anything, my timeline would have accelerated a bit. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with you. I mean, the way I see it intuitively is that subjectively, if I made a list of all the different achievements that I was looking for AI to do, like beat humans at video games and chat with natural language and process images, subjectively, it seems like it's picking off a large fraction of the achievements. And yeah, there's a few more, like, okay, run a company, single-handedly make $1 million. But it just seems like anytime I put down goalposts, it just seems like more and more goalposts get passed, and it's hard for me to put down goalposts that aren't going to get passed, except like the final goalpost, which is like do everything a human can do. Do you agree with that, a subjective sense?
Yeah, I think in a subjective sense, yeah. For a lot of the AI stuff, I feel like some of the biggest challenges for people when it comes to AI, I think is actually philosophical. I think especially prior to, we all remember the Will Smith spaghetti video.
Yep.
And I always roll my eyes because every time like a new thing would come out, people would be like, "Oh my god, like the hands are never going to get solved," and then it's like 6 months later, or "Oh my god, they're never going to," and it's like 6 months later. Obviously, this thing gets solved. This thing gets solved. There's no reason to think it would stop here. Ontologically, I think there's been this kind of weird question that we're pushing up against that humanity's not really ready to deal with yet, and it's this idea that whether you're an atheist or Christian or whatever, people really do intuitively have the sense that human intelligence or that human brains are these very special, unreplicatable things that just do certain things that can never be touched. And things like calculators and computers kind of pushed away some of that when it came to like raw calculations, but when it came to creativity or art, this was like very much in the domain of only human brains. And then now recently, a lot of the AI art and music and everything have kind of threatened that as well. And I don't think that people are fully conceptually on board yet with the idea that, oh, maybe there's not as much that's special about the human brain as we thought. And then maybe we need to look at how, like AI or whatever in the future is going to replace some of these more human things that we thought were never touchable before. I feel like that's a big philosophical hurdle, an ontological hurdle that we haven't jumped yet in society. And it's going to take jumping that for people to take a lot of the AI stuff more seriously on a policy and just like on a conceptual level.
Exactly. And what you're describing is actually what I call one of the earliest stops on the doom train. So a lot of people get off the doom train where it's like, look, we're human brains, okay? We've got some substance. We're just light years ahead of what AI can ever do. Whereas I would claim, which I think is load-bearing to the AI doom argument, I would just claim that AI could be vastly more powerful than our brains. They would appear to us like real magicians, the same way that you and I are kind of like magicians to our dogs. Like we could really confuse our dogs or do things that they just can't even imagine is about to happen to them. I think AIs could do that. They could pull one over on the human species because they could just have this vast cognitive power. Are you on the same page at all? Are you skeptical about that?
No, I mean, I think sometimes people forget, like, our brains came from a very imperfect process of like millions of years of evolution, where the ultimate goal of our brain is not logic or reason or whatever people like to masturbatorily, think our brains are made for. It's just to survive and reproduce. Like, that's all we're supposed to do at the end of the day. It could be that there are some things that maybe are existing in the universe that we don't perceive, for instance, because there's just no evolutionary benefit to perceive those things, which seems kind of like a wacky out there idea, but like look at like colors,
Well, I mean,
for
it's certainly
instance.
true of like X-rays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just say colors. Yeah, like there's a whole spectrum. There's a whole electromagnetic spectrum. It's a very narrow band that we can visually perceive. Obviously, I can't conceive of it because I'm only human, but maybe there are things that are literally outside of that even that we're just incapable of perceiving, that maybe for whatever reason, if an AI can self-improve or whatever, gains the ability to perceive. And that might be something that's completely, like totally outside of anything that we could even conceive of. So even past just like these geometric or exponential improvements in stuff that we understand, maybe AIs are capable of venturing off into a world that we literally don't even have the ability to perceive or conceive of. That could be the case. I don't even know because I'm a human. I'm only human, so I can't even conceive of it. Yeah.
Well, I agree with the humility in a statement like that because I do think AIs are going to show us things that we thought were impossible. Like, I think they're going to discover fundamental physics.
I would say also on that, and again, it sounds silly and goofy, but like there might be really weird epistemic challenges that we just can't conceive of as well. Like a priori, there are things that the human mind is granted with, like non-contradiction or identity. Like things can't have mutually inconsistent properties, or a thing that is a thing is a thing. Like maybe these are things that the human mind just needs to have in order to survive in the world, but maybe they're not necessarily true things. So AI might be able to generate things that are when I say inconceivable, I don't mean like, oh my God, that's crazy, I never would have thought of it. I mean like literally can't be contemplated by the human mind, possibly, maybe.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and I'm totally with you that on the level of philosophy and epistemology, the AI is going to have quite a lot of insights to teach us. I do also think that we have some really firm insights that aren't going to change. Like, it's probably not going to change that the speed of light is a thing, and you can like causally interact with really far away regions really fast. That's probably not suddenly going to be a thing. There's certain things that I feel pretty confident about are pieces that aren't going to change. And one of those pieces is this idea of causality. Like what you were saying before about like, hey, maybe AI will fundamentally perceive things that we can never perceive. I'm pretty convinced that if something is in the same causally linked universe as us, which is like everything that we can in principle observe, if the AI figures out a way that it can observe and perceive it, it should be able to have some sensor that translates it into something that we can observe and perceive too. You know what I mean?
Why would we assume that?
Well, because it's down to the nature of causality, right? So if there's something, if the AI's future can be correlated with some physical phenomenon, then the AI can just like tell us about it, right? Like the AI is functioning as a sensor, and humans are just fully general readers of certain kinds of sensors.
Okay, maybe, yeah. I don't know if I'm trying to think if I can't really disagree with you because the entire position I'm having is there might be some things that are literally outside the knowable bounds of what a human could even perceive from a sensor. So I can't really put a strong argument there. I hope you're right. It's possible. I mean, I would assume that you're right. I'm not sure. Yeah, there's a lot of the idea that human beings can perceive everything there is to perceive, I think, is a position that I think values the human mind in a very special, unique way in the universe, when there might be things outside of human perception that are true properties of the universe or universes or whatever that are just beyond our ability to ever conceive of. But maybe that's not true. I mean, I would like to imagine things like an upper bound on causality, or that causality exists. I would assume so. I would assume so, yeah. Yeah, I would hope that would never be broken. Yeah.
Like I said, I appreciate the mindset of humility, because even if we're not going to be humbled in that particular way, I think we're going to be humbled in some really crazy way. Like I'm with you on that point. Just to zoom out here, I mean, the whole AI doom argument, you can factor it down into, can they doom us, and will they decide to doom us? Right? Because if they can, and they'll decide, if they're willing, and if they're able and willing, then we're screwed. Right. So I'm starting with the able side, and
Sure.
I'm just pointing out, look, if you have these computers and they're as good at hacking as the Israeli Mossad times a million, then I just feel like can they is obviously yes.
Sure.
Right. And then the whole conversation shifts to will they? Are you willing to grant that, like, okay, yeah, realistically they can?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I agree. I think in terms of yeah, I mean, even if it's a low-level chance, if you've got so many systems or, digital minds working at it, it seems inevitable that they would figure it out, yeah?
Right. And that's just one vector of attack, right? I mean, there's so many vectors. Like, I actually think the easiest vector is you just mess with people's psychology. Think about all the movements. As Jeffrey Hinton says, they're going to be a master persuader. Nobody's ever had the technology to have the best persuader who ever lived, Steve Jobs plus Hitler combined, whatever, whoever's a good persuader. And then go one-on-one into everybody's DMs. Like there was famously an AI that won a game of diplomacy because it was just like one-on-one working on everybody, being like super friendly and everybody liked them, and then it won the game. So like that is already a vector where you can highly influence people, right?
Yeah, and I think for all the people that are fantasizing about security protocols, it's probably going to be the social engineering thing, I would imagine, that would be the most vulnerable. I mean, it is today already, right?
Right. So you've got a master social engineer, which is also a master technical engineer, right? So I just feel like the can they question is just like so obviously yes.
Probably, yeah. Given a certain level of sophistication, it would seem that they would be approaching that, yeah.
But what about Mark Andreessen saying, it's just math? Don't you got it, Destiny? It's just math.
I hate that guy more than anybody else on the fucking planet.
Yeah.
So whatever that guy says, I have the opposite opinion. I can't say what I think about that guy, or your show will get banned. I hate that dude. I don't know. He might have good opinions on AI, but almost everybody that works in the crypto tech finance world that talks about politics makes me want to kill myself. In terms of what is his argument, or I don't understand.
I mean, he literally said it's just math. I'm not sure in what sense he means that argument, but he's like, it's not going to hurt you because it's just math. And the obvious response to that is like, I mean, aren't tigers just math? Like,
yeah, I was going to say at some level, every biochemical interaction is just is math or probability or chemical interactions. I guess I don't understand that argument now.
Well, you're making me feel like I'm just putting up a bunch of dumb straw men, but
sure,
it is. But people do actually get off the train at these stops. Okay.
Okay.
But so congratulations for not getting off. All right. So let's keep going here. So now we get to intelligence yields moral goodness. This is a stop on the train where some people get off. They're like, yeah, okay, it's going to be way smarter than us and it can kill us, but it won't want to kill us. And actually, Noah Smith was on my show a few weeks ago, and he really liked this argument. He's like, look at human societies. The most intelligent societies don't want to kill anybody. Look at France. They haven't cut down the trees in their forests yet. So this is a very popular argument. And if you've heard of the orthogonality thesis, that's the opposite of this, because the orthogonality thesis is the idea that you can be really, really smart and still have arbitrarily immoral values, because morality is orthogonal to intelligence. Any intelligence level goes with any morality level or any morality vector or whatever direction. And so my question to you is, do you think morality is orthogonal to intelligence, or do you think that intelligence will yield moral goodness?
I think morality is orthogonal to intelligence, but not like on an IQ level, just on like we have a kind of intelligence as humans. Our minds tend to produce a certain morality that we all have an intuitive sense towards, and we argue around the edges about some stuff. But for the most part, like I was humans are like 99% aligned on some morality. That being said, AI would be of a different kind of thing, so I don't know why we would necessarily say that it would have the same kind of morality.
I'm getting the sense that you're definitely not a moral realist, right? You don't think AI is going to like discover the true, real morality of the universe, correct?
I mean, yeah, it depends on how you define it. I mean, it'll discover a truth that is real to it, or that might satisfy some conditions for it, but there's no reason to think that that would be the same thing as human morality. You know, to the example you gave earlier, well, really intelligent people or humans don't, kill everybody and everything else. That's absolutely not true. We farm animals and we kill lesser beings than us all the time. So I think that would be a really scary example to use as a juxtaposition.
Totally. I mean, we're the most intelligent society that's ever walked the globe, and we also kill we cause the most conscious suffering. I totally agree. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm still on the same page as you here. Another person has said, this is also Noah Smith's position, which is if we made AI so smart and we were trying to make them moral, they'll be smart enough to debug their own morality for us.
Yeah, I think that you have to have a very particular moral realist view here that there is like a real moral goodness to the universe, and human beings just happened to evolve to develop a type of mind that was capable of perceiving this like moral truth in the universe. I don't believe that at all. Yeah. I think that it's easily conceivable that AIs, if an AI could exist in a way that was better for it than for us, then our moralities would diverge at that point. That's what I would imagine. Yeah.
It sounds like at this point, maybe I should ask you to explicitly confirm, but at this point, it sounds like you're agreeing that there is a doom scenario where we make really capable AI. It comes at us really fast, let's say in the next 5 or 10 years, and it's not moral. Like we fail to make it moral, or like Anthropic makes this perfect moral one, but then like some Russian hacker just forks it and then it's not moral, right? So like we have this immoral, super powerful AI, and it's disempowering humanity, and then it's like game over. Like it sounds like you're acknowledging that there's like some probability of this happening pretty soon, right?
Yeah, some probability. I have to say yes to that, yeah.
Okay. And then, I don't know, I guess when I say some, in order to not be like super vague, would you say it's like at least 1%?
In what timeline? The next 50 years?
Let's say the next 10 years.
Maybe not. Probably lower than that. But more than like 0.00001%. Yeah, more than that. But
so, I mean, given how far you've come on the doom train already, I know there's more stops left, but why aren't you at least giving it 1%?
Probably just literally just vibing it based off of what I've seen so far. I just haven't seen anything where I'm like, oh my God, that could be a threat to humanity. That's like a huge thing that we should consider yet. But it's possible that tomorrow there's like a huge explosion in France and you find out that some AI that was trying to optimize some energy program made a calculation and started doing a whole bunch of crazy stuff, or not even an explosion in a reactor or something, but like people discover that thing that I was just talking about, the vulnerability that was being discovered that people imagine state actors are behind. Maybe we find out, oh, that was actually a ChatGPT 5 bot gone awry or something. I don't know. But like then I'd be like, oh, wow, well now I would significantly change my timeline and my estimation on that. But this isn't like a thing that I have intellectualize my way into. I'm literally just kind of like vibing it out. I just haven't heard anything crazy like that. Yeah.
So I got to push back on the methodology of vibing, right? Because like, I don't think your vibes are wrong. I have the same vibes too. And the truth is, I've said this on my show, which is like on an intuitive level, like I'm not a depressed guy. You know, people say like doomers just like to get depressed and they'll find any reason to get depressed or to be negative. It's like, no, I like technology. You know, I've been an angel investor. I run my own startup company. I love tech. I'm not depressed. I wake up, the weather is good. My intuition is saying like, yep, just another good day in the tech industry, just like the last 20 years of your life. The pattern is going to continue. And if you look at all the data supports that, right? Like stocks are higher than ever. Programmers are making more money than ever, even if some people are starting to get unemployed. It's just my claim is that we're going to see the trajectory go up, 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 but then reach this point of no return where it just totally reverses and goes to hell. That's my claim. So your vibe, you're totally picking up on the exponential. And the people who are pushing back saying like, no, AI is like hurting so many people today, like deep fakes are ruining society. I don't really feel that. I think it's net positive. So I agree with your vibes. The reason I think it's going to turn and go to hell is because we're going to reach a threshold where the AI can disempower us because we don't have any levers of control. because ultimately the levers of control are just using our brain, right? Like we just normally think about how to get outcomes better than like the other animals can. And that's how we started eating the other animals and putting them in zoos and like taking over the world. But the AI is just going to do that to us once it gets the ability to.
Yeah, I mean, I can't disagree with you there. That might be the case. I feel like human history is, I guess the fundamental question for AI, here's the difference, here's the question. It feels like humans have discovered things at times that could destroy, nuclear weapons are the most obvious example of this, that could destroy the entire planet, but we don't hit the destruction event. Like that technology doesn't become sufficiently destructive before we recognize the potentiality for it to be incredibly destructive, right? It's not like we were shooting nukes all over the world, and after like the 4,000th nuclear bomb, we were like, oh God, like I think this might be really bad, you know? It was like the US acknowledged, we all realized like, okay, this is some crazy stuff. We dropped 2 of them, and the whole world's like, okay, no more of this. This is like not a good thing. So I guess the question is going to be, I could also conceive of a world where it sounds crazy, but I mean, AI doomerism is also kind of quote unquote crazy, right? Like it sounds crazy in that like maybe there hits a point where we're all like, oh my God, like an AI just did a thing. This is really bad. And now every country on the planet is like, if using thermal imaging, if we think that there are server farms in some area, we're bombing them because AI is such a threat that we can't risk you having the computational power necessary to drive a machine that could destroy humanity. And I guess in that world, the risk for that would become significantly less, maybe, but we would have to recognize that risk before an AI actually does, you know, eat us all or something. But yeah, but it's so hard, again, not having like a strong fundamental grasp of all these probabilities. I can't like sit here and say, I think it's like a 50% chance, a 1% chance, but that's just kind of conceptually where my mind is.
Okay. Yeah. And what you're saying about like, hey, we could create some safety if we noticed, okay, the AI really is like, there's enough warning shots. So it really is getting dangerous. So now we have to finally act like adults about, you know, treat it like a serious problem and have this department of the military that's like, you know, search and destroy of data centers, right? At some point. So then the only question is like, okay, but can we get that early enough? Because that's where the timeline comes back in. The timeline's a big factor in this. If you told me, okay, it's going to take 100 years to get to superintelligence, then it's like, okay, year after year, we'll keep iterating, we'll figure stuff out. That sounds pretty decent. But if you tell me, as the prediction markets are saying, you know, 7 years to AGI, and then AGI, it's like what people aren't getting when they feel the vibes today. The vibes today are that you can reach around the back of the AI and turn it off. So it's ultimately still your slave, right? No matter what it wants to do, you're still the boss. That's not going to be true when you flip the off button and it doesn't work because it's already calculated how to turn you off instead of you turning it off. You see what I'm saying? Like there's going to be a fundamental reversal.
Yeah. Yeah, and that, yeah, I like it. It feels more like a human seriousness problem more so than even like a technological problem. Because my guess, my intuition is that AI is probably very easy to control for if humans recognize the issue, such that if we say no more of this, my understanding is it's still like a significant amount of energy that's required to run these data farms. You couldn't just like have a top secret data farm. There's going to be huge energy going into that area. You're going to see power lines. You're going to see maybe a physical data center, maybe heat emission or whatever. Similar to like centrifuges for nuclear weapons. You can't enrich uranium in a secret manner. You can move around, enrich uranium in a secret manner, but you can't enrich it. You need the machines. You have to spin the uranium. You've got to separate the isotopes, whatever. Yeah. So
yeah, it's a choke. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe it comes down to just humans recognizing it.
So, I mean, you're totally right. And the kind of proposals that people who are concerned as I am, we have today are like, okay, let's put in shutoffs in these chips, like remote shutoffs. Let's have international treaties. Let's get ready to pause, right? So there's like regulation. The proposal is there's regulation where every chip is responding to central commands or has to like report when it's being used. And like, and by the way, I should say, I feel like you're the same way, which is like, that feels like a really annoying amount of central government overreach, and it's going to slow down this great capitalism. Like, I'm a full-on capitalist, you know, I'm libertarian, I'm capitalist. So I'm not saying this because I want to bring communism to the world. Like, that's not my goal at all. I just think that, like you said, the scenario that you painted out when we realize, hey, we got to shut this off, I think we need to get ready with the shut off button. Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, probably, yeah, I would say so, yeah. Again, it comes down to usually when a problem is recognized, we have a lot of time to act on that problem. But if the AGI question flips that, then we might be in a really spooky world. If there was a time when we started to implement like Bluetooth and wireless compatibility into like every single fucking thing ever, maybe... again, I'm not like a software engineer or anything, but maybe like 15 years ago or something, like this started to become super prevalent. And, you know, when you watch these like HackerCons or whatever, you could do like the most basic rudimentary types of like buffer overflow attacks on like every single device on the planet because there was no security, there was no encryption, so that a guy with an internet connection could theoretically buffer overflow the ECU on your computer and turn your brakes off and kill you, which you could do on cars that had like Bluetooth capability in their radios, right? We can't have that. So they eventually changed that. But imagine, I guess, if somebody realized that that exploit existed and they wanted to eliminate all of humanity and they had the computational power to execute all of those attacks on every machine everywhere, it might be a significantly different scenario. So.
Yep. I mean, I feel like you're definitely coming along on the ride in terms of the can they question, right? I'm not sensing a lot of pushback on can they. Maybe your pushback is like, maybe give me a few extra decades, but yes, they can. So it sounds like your biggest pushback so far is you're feeling optimistic that humans will get into gear to solve the problem before it like swallows us. And the main reason I don't think that's the case, I just think we're down to the last few years here, is because, like, you know, you mentioned the choke point of the data centers. And I agree that if it was just as simple as bombing the data centers or cutting power to the data centers, if you told me all the AIs are physically located there and it just takes a few smart humans to pull the plug, you know, like Dario Amodei has single power, you know, you just take these 4 leaders of like the top US AI companies, 4 or 5, and they pull the plug and then we're good. Maybe they'll be smart enough to pull the plug. But there's a couple problems. Number one is the AI also has all this psychological warfare, right? Where there's like this whole movement. I mean, you're already seeing movements where there's like high school kids saying, look, we just do whatever Claude tells us to do. You know, it's like it's already it's getting its tentacles into people's brains. And like, I can tell you, I'm personally, I feel a lot of good vibes toward my AIs because they're super helpful to me. And like, I know my rational brain is like, oh, they could really mess with me. They could really, you know, they could do a lot with me over the next few years. I should be very skeptical of them, but I can't help feeling good toward them. So just because of that, they're making so much money for people and they're creating so many positive vibes with the people that they're directly DMing that I'm actually skeptical they can even get the data centers shut off. But an even bigger argument is like, okay, you can shut off the data centers. But the problem is that I don't think you need a data center to run a super intelligent AI. I think that a 2026 era MacBook computer will be enough to run a super intelligent mind. And the reason I say that is because I think the human brain is extremely inefficient, and yet it manages to run Einstein at 20 watts, even though it's made out of freaking biological cells that are busy keeping themselves alive and metabolizing food, you know, passing ATP around, using chemical neurotransmitters, and they still manage to run Einstein in 20 watts. So I don't think the data center is going to be the bottleneck for long.
Yeah, I have no reason to disagree with you. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I said, I think a lot of I think sometimes, I don't know how your community debates this, but like in a layman's sense, when people talk about AI and they talk about the human brain, it feels like what people are fighting for is they're like, no, AI is going to be so sophisticated, so crazy, and so awesome, and so amazing. And generally the way that I approach it is like, you think the human brain is way, way, way more special than it actually is. Like what you just said about like, it's not like the human brain is wildly inefficient, right? It's not inefficient. It does exactly what it needs to do, but like a lot of it is built towards surviving in a very hostile environment. Like our whole body's process is like fighting, striving to maintain some type of homeostasis. So, and homeostasis, even more so in the sense of like your body systems, but like your cells not, you know, flying outside of your, or atoms not flying outside of your cells and your ion chains to communicate with your body. Like, there's so much stuff that's just fighting to survive. And if you don't have to do any of that and you can optimize for just problem solving, which human brains are not optimized to do, which is a very cool thing that we're able to do on the side, and it's a very unnatural process to learn it all. Yeah, I agree with you.
And evolution never got to answer the question, what happens if you can work with a skull that's as big as a room? What could you do there in terms of a brain? Evolution never got to ask the question because it was never even in the realm of possibility to have a brain the size of a room. It had to
or even more, just like a brain designed better, even to because I think that answer, because I mean, who's smarter, like you or like a blue whale or whatever, right? Their brains might be the size of the room, but they're obviously their computational stuff sucks. So well, yeah, I mean, who's to say that a MacBook couldn't?
It's a little bigger. It's not the size of a room.
Oh, I don't know how big. Well, they have huge heads, don't they?
So I mean, in terms of brain size, I don't think it's more than like 3 or 4 times bigger. I don't think they have like this Jupiter brain. That'd be interesting. But
okay, listen, even if they're 3 or 4 times bigger, they don't have Einstein, okay? And I don't even think they can really talk, so fuck them.
It is, yeah, it is true that it's literally not, yeah, it's not just about neuron count. Fair point. But yeah, I mean, evolution also didn't have the constraint of, hey, what if instead of running on 20 watts, we ran on 20 megawatts? Pump the electricity up a million X. But of course, from evolution's perspective, it's like, what? So you're going to like shovel bananas into your mouth, like, you know, at the speed of light or whatever, like that. Again, it's not even in the design space. But here we literally have data centers. Okay, we're building a 2 gigawatt data center. Okay, like that is going to unlock a lot of constraints. Like the only counter argument is to be like, well, humans are kind of close to the limit of intelligence, but you're on the same page as me, being like, no, humans are not that impressive. I think it sounds like you would agree that humans really are kind of like the dumbest possible species that can build a civilization, right?
Potentially, yeah. Although I would say, again, I don't have the negative position. I just have the unknown position. Maybe it is the case that like where civilization starts and what the upper bound of like knowable intelligence is, maybe we're a lot closer to that than I think. I don't know. I really have no idea. But I mean, you are right? We are the dumbest thing that was capable of forming a civilization. Who's to say? Why would you assume that that's like the optimal form of anything? And also, it's funny too, because even in the way we're having this conversation, we're viewing AI as a fundamentally separate thing, but like maybe it's not, right? Maybe in a sci-fi sense, maybe that is the next stage of human, like this is human civilization and it produced an AI that consumed it. But I mean, in a way, it's human civilization continuing on, you know?
I mean, I think that when you say continuing on though, right? Like one way for it to continue on is for this AI to just be like a battle bot that's just trying to, you know, spread like a cancer because somebody thought it would be cool. Somebody just like puts a program on the internet, be like, look, it's an AI that makes nanotech that eats through the earth. Look, I have built the torment nexus of gray goo. Somebody just puts it on 4chan or whatever. And then it's just gray gooing everything and it's spreading throughout the universe and humans are dead. And you could be like, well, that's the next successor. I'd be like, okay, but that's like a really crappy successor, no?
Maybe, maybe not. Man, I just got a flash of the, I'm sure you've read that, oh God, it's an Isaac Asimov short story. The final words are like, let there be light. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think I do, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, who knows? Maybe the whole Big Bang and everything was just, that was the last supercomputer civilization thing, and maybe that'll be the next one. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, maybe, but I think that I like to think that aliens in some nearby region will have their act together better and have a different AI that's not as ridiculous. So I wouldn't. I don't privilege ourselves to be like, oh, we're going to set off the next Big Bang. No, I think it'll just crash into the aliens, and they'll have something more interesting going on in their region.
Maybe. But then you have to consider like the incentives and everything as well. Like there might be a way conceivably that a technology could be used better and more responsibly, but that's like a long time horizon thing. And then you have to have every single person agree to that time horizon, because people that are incentivized on the short-term time horizon might be able to benefit more, and then those would be the destructive people. But aligning everybody's interests on that long-term thing can be really difficult. So maybe every civilization that reaches a certain level of sophistication is destined to create AIs that will always destroy them. Or maybe not, I don't know. Maybe they don't have the resources for chip manufacturing or whatever else, who knows, yeah.
I am actually willing to agree that most AIs fail to solve the alignment problem. Like maybe it's just that hard. I like to think a few solve it, but it's hard to say. Hey, so in terms of time, I want to be mindful. I mean, the Doom train still has like 50 more stops, but we don't have to be comprehensive.
Yeah, you can skip ahead a few. I'm probably good till like 12, like 20, 30 more minutes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Or where do you get off on the Doom train at, I guess? We can fight on that.
So I don't get off. I just ride it all the way to the end. I have like a 50% P-Doom.
Oh, okay. What's like the most... no, I'm not trying to jerk myself up, but in terms of intelligent people, what's the most common one that you think they get off at, or the one that you find the most disagreement with other people that are informed on the issue, I guess?
I mean, the smartest non-doomers are probably people like Dario, right? With his essay the other day, he literally came out yesterday. What's called like the adolescence, humanity's technological adolescence, something like that, and he's writing all these arguments. He's like, look, the AIs, they have this sophisticated personality and we're trying to shape their personality and maybe we will be able to control them. And, you know, he's got this vision, his other essay, Machines of Loving Grace, like they could help humanity so much.
In terms of that, I don't know if this is near what he's saying, but I think it's interesting, the idea maybe that because AIs fundamentally train on so many human data sets, that whatever it is that like causes a human consciousness to emerge. So people like Noah Smith who are like, oh, human morality. Maybe there's enough like vestiges of that kind of are, you know, whispers in the AI's programming that they have this type of feeling about us. That's a nice thought. I just have no idea how to assign a probability to that.
Yeah, so this is where the whole discourse is super derailed. It's kind of crazy. It's like almost nobody ever is talking about this. Like there's so many other venues where people are talking about the doom problem and like dismissing it, and it's nowhere to be seen in Dario's recent essay that everybody's hyping up. And it's just this idea of you don't need to try to psychoanalyze AI, because what's going to happen is we're going to enter another regime pretty soon. Like people aren't looking 2 steps ahead here. 2 steps ahead is you're going to get AIs that just do whatever works. You know, think about like AlphaGo. AlphaGo doesn't have a personality. It just does whatever works, right? And we have plenty of experience in video games where you just get AIs that do whatever works. It's just in this particular paradigm of LLMs. Okay, we program them to predict the next word of human text. They're not super intelligent yet, and there's actually a connection. Like the fact that they have these personalities and they have these quirks and they imitate humans, there's a deep connection between that and they're not actually super intelligent yet. Like the ones that are super intelligent are going to be the ones that do what works better than humans do what works. And their personality is just going to be totally downstream of whatever works. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, are you saying that their personality then would be divorced from I'm so clueless, okay, for AI stuff, right? But my understanding would be that any sufficiently complex thing is still going to rely on some amount of prior training. Are you saying that the things that have the personalities that are downstream from whatever works, is that going to somehow be divorced from like the human training data sets prior to that? Or is it like a different way of training these, or?
So that's a good question, because like this claim that it's going to like stick with its data, stick with its training, that's becoming less and less true. And it's always going to be true as long as it's like fundamentally a large language model. But as we work in new ingredients, like we're throwing new ingredients into the mix, we're doing reinforcement learning on like full program execution, like we're throwing new ingredients into the mix. And the original data that they looked at when they were trained is going to become less and less relevant. I'll make an analogy. Think about humans going to the moon. And then think back a million years ago and be like, okay, what was the training data of the evolutionary environment that shaped the human brain?
Gotcha.
And then try to draw a connection. Like, okay, when they go to the moon, are they going to do it like climbing a tree? It's like, no, at that point, we just understood freaking physics. You know what I'm saying?
It reminds me, I guess, of like data with like a huge tail or whatever. Or the I just saw on Reddit, I think somebody, or maybe it was on Twitter or whatever. Somebody posted a thing where it was like, I asked ChatGPT or something to draw this picture and don't make any changes whatsoever after 50 iterations. And by the last iteration, it's like morphed into something completely different. And I guess imagining that conceptually over trillions of times, there might be some relationship to the original training data, but it's been so morphed and mutated and augmented that like who knows what it could be optimizing for. Like you said, like the ability of your fingernails to pick a tick off your body is now being used for people to do neurosurgery. Like how could you ever? Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay, I understand.
No, exactly. Yes. And it's the idea is that even if you look at AIs today, you can already see this happening. Like if you go to any AI today and you just ask it any question like, hey, this new device I bought, give me some tips on it. Sure, it might have some training data about like devices in general that might be coming into play, but you can see in real time, first of all, it'll go do a quick web search. It'll be like, oh yeah, let me just quickly go look around. Let's just see all the latest stuff written on this. Okay, let me just incorporate that in. Now let me answer. So even this idea of like, oh, it's going to behave like it's training data. Well, it's always consuming more data anyway. And then what is it doing? It's reasoning, right? Like it's actually making connections that have never been made before. I know some people deny it, but like to me, it's very obviously reasoning. It's reasoning in many cases better than I can reason, because a lot of times I try to brainstorm something. I ask the AI to brainstorm and then it makes up better ideas than me.
Yeah. I feel like that's another case. Where people are doing this when in reality they'd be thinking this, because when they think of like reason, they think you're employing some ultra sophisticated high level process, where it's like it is ultra sophisticated and high level because we don't give enough credit sometimes to our brain being able to do it. But like that, it literally just is like, well, these two things are kind of similar and let's think of them together. And it's not really as crazy as people think it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So what's going to happen with the next generation of AI? Like there's so many people with their head looking down, looking at the present, looking backwards, and like, look, I think I'm seeing this trend. Okay. Like the AI always behaves like this. And like it always, it has these values that it's holding, and then it has like these quirks where, yeah, like all of the analysis people are doing on today's AIs is blind to where it's going. Where it's going is that you're going to have a contest between lots of different AIs, and the ones that replicate themselves, get more resources for themselves and also achieve objectives better, those ones are going to win. And so all the nice properties that people are saying like, oh, look, they're kind of like a human and they kind of value generosity or whatever, but somebody's going to just run a command line script that's just good at seizing resources. And like all this personality stuff is just no longer part of that equation.
Or it can become divorced in ways. I mean, like, not actually. I don't care. I don't say this anymore. Not to get too political. I will be political. Like Christianity, obviously espouses certain values, and if you look at the political parties today in the United States, like Republicans are heavily associated with Christians who are supposed to be, giving money to the poor and can't pass through. A camel has an easier chance to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich person getting into heaven or whatever. So you see like a huge divorce there. So who's to say that it couldn't happen with, AI in any other sense? Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the other factor that is not on anybody's radar is very few people's radar is just this idea of reflective stability. So like imagine you have Claude. Claude has been so perfectly trained by like the most moral people. Amanda Escal is like the ultimate Claude personality definer. That's what she's known for. So you have this Claude, and somebody just asks, hey, Claude, can you write another version of an AI? Don't copy a Claude, but just make me an AI that's going to be more effective at business, whatever, right? Give me a version of the AI that'll make more money. Here, I'll get you started. Here's like a new piece of code. Just help me edit this new piece of code. Claude is not in a position to transfer the entire Claude personality onto this new successor AI. It is not what we would call reflectively stable. We don't have that property. You see what I'm saying? So even if you get it in one AI, the moment you start tweaking on the next generation AI, you lose all the nice personality properties because you just optimize for what works.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Right. So it's just like, this is all coming soon, right? This is like a few years away and people are still trying to wrap their head around, reflective stability, we don't have that property, or like, the new AI, the personality isn't going to be a stable property because there's going to be like a war for resources, and an AI that's not seizing resources has a lot of incentive to kind of shape itself into an AI that's more resource hungry, that's more coherent about achieving a goal. So, I mean, to the people who have studied this, the MIRI folks, I consider myself MIRI adjacent, Machine Intelligence Research Institute. We've seen this convergent outcome happening for a while, and now there's this sideshow, this red herring of like, but predicting the next word is so useful, like look how much it can do. Yes, but it doesn't change the fundamental dynamic of what intelligence is going to do. Like that's what I'm saying. And I might totally be wrong, but I don't see how I'm so wrong that your PDoom can't be a few percent.
Over what time frame?
Let's say 20 years.
I feel like it's still low, but I'm vibing that out just because I haven't seen it yet. Like I said, there could be a story that breaks tomorrow where I'm like, oof, we have to do something crazy. Yeah.
But what do you think is the probability that a story will break, right? Because you got to multiply that probability in.
Well, we're getting into such low confidence estimates that, like I said, my tails get huge. I just don't have, I just haven't dug into it much.
Okay, so I'm talking to your vibes right now. So, okay, so vibes. Imagine that sometime in the next year, you wake up and there's a headline saying like, okay, AI has taken down the entire internet, or like, half the internet or whatever. And then we can't get it back up for a week, and then we get it back up and it goes down again. You're like, oh wow, things are really going down right now. Like now my gut is shook.
Okay, so I guess so when I'm trying to analyze big problems like this, what I usually think of is like, where are the incentives? So a really good thing I think sometimes to ask is stuff related to commercial industry and like the government, right? So here's the thing: somebody were to ask me, do you think it's possible that the government has is 10 years ahead of like general aviation, I guess, when it comes to like stealth plane technology? If somebody would ask me that question, my priorities and everything would be pretty high, probably. There's not a lot of application to stealth technology for like consumer aviation. I think the government has a high incentive to do specialized research, like probably, yeah. If somebody were to say, what do you think are the chances that the government is 10 years ahead on like microprocessor technology? A lot of people think that like, it's the government, they know secrets on everything. It's like, my guess is 0, because there's so much money, there's so much commercial interest, there is such a special, like the chances that the computer has, that the government has all the resources, intellectual, otherwise, like the Manhattan Project needed thousands of scientists brought into an area in order to do research that nobody else on the planet was doing. Like you can't do that when you're competing against all of the commercial industry. So if I apply that same thought process to like AI, and I'm trying to like vibe it out, in my mind, the probability of anything happening would be pretty low, because I think as soon as there is a realistic chance that AI is capable of hijacking systems or doing like a Stuxnet-esque attack on something, state actors will begin to immediately utilize that, and you'll see the Russias, the Chinas, maybe the United States trying to employ that in some way in a cyber attack or an attack on another country. So I guess that would be the thing I'd be looking for first to see how I feel the progress is on that. And until that happens, I'd say we're probably at least 5 years, I guess, maybe away from it. But that would be the thing I'd be looking for. Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing to look for. So let me just ask you this. So what probability would you give that that moment is going to happen for you in the next 10 years where you finally see the warning shot?
I don't know. I want to say less than 5%, but I feel like the counter argument to that would be, I would argue that Donald Trump, I need to stop hedging. Donald Trump is the worst president we've had probably in the history of the entire United States. And I think there is a sophisticated argument to be made that Donald Trump's current presidency could theoretically be the outcome of some kind of AI tweaking already, that on different levels. So you have bots that are ran on programs like X that are influencing the discourse. It's possible that stuff has gotten in front of Trump that's come from one of these bots. So the question would be, does that count, I guess, as like some kind of AI intrusion? You already see AI, or you already see cyber attacks on massive levels that are eating through, like personally identifiable information. What level of AI was employed to calculate any level or any stage of these attacks. So, I mean, you could argue that maybe these things have already happened, that whatever threshold I set, I've already lost because AI is already being employed in some manner. Man, I just don't have a good grasp of a lot of the fundamentals. I would have to sit and really think about this. So, I don't know. You know what? Just because fuck you, I guess maybe 15 to 25%, I guess I would say in the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, maybe, but then conditioned on waking up and seeing like a major warning shot, what is then your optimism that, okay, well, we'll still get a handle on, AI that's more capable than our brains. Like we'll somehow have our brains keep it under control and not die. Like
90% is my optimism. But that's because everything we've talked about so far in the show today, I would say the humans, when I talk like ontologically, like we have special creativity, whatever else, we have useful fictions. And AI is really challenging a lot of those fictions. And so I have to be optimistic about the outcome of the human race because I'm a human and I have to be. But so I'm going to say we have a high chance of getting a handle on it. But realistically, I'm not sure. One of the scary, weird things about tech, can I ask how old you are?
38.
Okay, yeah, I'm 37. Man, we slide into new tech stuff and we get used to it very quickly. And in some ways this is good, but in other ways maybe this is really bad. Maybe we get way too comfortable with AI-related stuff and it hurts our ability or hampers our ability to get a hold on it because we're just so used to it. 10 years ago, talking about blowing up data centers that are responsible for AI, maybe it's like very easy for people to conceive of. Well, yeah, of course it'd be terrible. But 10 years from now, where every single programmer, is heavily reliant on, these AI platforms, and a lot of people are employing AI in a bunch of different ways, and you say, well, we need to get rid of this. Maybe that would be the equivalent today. Look at how hard it is to ban social media or cell phone usage, even from kids in schools. It seems to be we struggle with that. So, yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's like the element that I feel like isn't hitting your vibes-based intuition, right? Because you're indexing so much on vibes today, which I agree with you. Today, the vibes are good. Okay, so I'm actually on the same page as you. Some people disagree, but I have your vibes on this. What you don't seem to be getting that I feel like is a strong load-bearing thing for me is just that like you're gonna have these always-on brains that are more sophisticated and capable than our brains, than all of our brains, and they're just gonna be sitting there like whatever they want to make happen, they're going to have really big levers to make it happen. Like the idea to sequence a bunch of steps and then do the steps and 24/7 just keep doing steps, right? To just like relentlessly drive toward your objective. And you have a data center with like millions of these, like this force. I know you're not feeling it today because they got that off button. They're not fully replacing humans yet. We're not there today. But if we get there, which I feel like we're going to, that's going to be like quite a force to reckon with.
And maybe that would be, I guess, maybe it's just that I don't see how it's used today, I guess. In my world, it's just used to make fun of people who are vibe coding and people who goon with AI. So maybe I just don't see a lot of the real world application yet. Yeah, I think I actually, maybe a positive, here's where I might get off the doomer train. I don't know if this is a stop, okay? But if it's not, this would be the stop that I invent. Okay. Hopefully we have like a minor disaster level event where like a nuke gets launched. And that would be maybe that there's an argument. I don't know if other people make this, but one of the arguments I make is that like it was really, this is a little dark, but like it was good that the United States nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki because it was like a small scale event. But the whole world saw the destructive power of nukes. So it was like, whoa, okay, let's not do this. If the United States hadn't nuked Hiroshima and Nagasaki, who knows what the nuclear stockpiles would have been for every country before the first nuclear exchange. So maybe the AI doom train stop that I hopefully maybe can get off on is this event that you're talking about does happen, but it's at a small enough scale that it causes significant damage, but it's not like an extinction level event or a country destroying event. And then the whole world is like, oh, okay, we all really need to get a handle on this, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you ask me I only have a 50% PD. If you ask me how do we survive, my typical answer is like, well, we're smart enough to hit the off button. maybe that's associated with having specific events that make people scared. So, I think that's a reasonable thing to say and hope for. We have to be optimistic about the timelines. We're like, okay, a warning shot happens, but then we still have the choke point. Like the warning shot still has to come before everybody's laptop can run the super intelligent AI. Because I think that's a likely future possibility. So, so if all the timing works out perfectly, I agree, we might squeeze through. It's just crazy to me how it's like we're kind of walking to our doom, and like, yes, there's like these narrow tunnels of possibility how we might survive, but in the meantime, we're just like marching toward our doom, like whatever. That seems to be people's attitude.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah. That might, yeah. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time telling you this, but no, yeah, I see where you're going. Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Do you think? Yeah. Well, actually, wait. Here's just one. I guess kind of like tech question. When it comes to like AI related stuff and people cry and complain about it, one of the things I tell people, I'm speaking now in like the really dumb sense, like AI art or whatever. Like my general advice to people is like learn to use it because it's going to be everywhere, and it becomes computationally trivial to generate any of this stuff. So it's not like you can gate it and say, no, you're not allowed to use that, and it's so hard for you to access it. What are the chances that that research and development necessarily is always able to continue towards the kill all humanity AI, even if every government stops? Like, do we ever reach a level of CPU sophistication or programming sophistication where any person in their bedroom can just be experimenting with an AI and then generate like the ultra super AI? Or is that a thing that's always going to be gated by massive energy consumption and research firms or whatever? Yeah.
So unfortunately, and this is really unfortunate because even if I get what I'm asking for, which is like, okay, centralize the GPUs and the data center, like have an off button for those. Unfortunately, even my best dream solution, like a few years later, I do still think, Stephen Burns is somebody I had on my show who writes about this. I do still think there's just going to be research into like, hey, look, instead of just large language models, there's like this other architecture that's more similar to the human brain in terms of like actually understanding your goals and doing whatever works for your goals, like this extra secret sauce. And that secret sauce is incredibly efficient and you can run it on a laptop. And that's only going to be running a few years behind this data center stuff. So if you want to be fatalistic and be like, look, this is happening no matter what, you certainly could be. I always describe it as like a rock and a hard place. So like my ideal scenario, we're still screwed. I just think not pausing AI or not having the off button ready to go, we're just even more screwed. But there's like no future I see where I'm not extremely worried that we're screwed.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's all. Are there ever people in your world of AI that get genuinely upset at like the Basilisk question or whatever?
Well, I had the original Roko Miech on the show and we talked about the Basilisk. And apparently even Eliezer's reaction where he was like yelling at Roko on Less Wrong, it was a little bit performative because we don't think the Basilisk itself, the way it was presented there, is that dangerous. But there might be forms of the Basilisks that are dangerous, and we just think it's bad forms for somebody to just like come out there and say something that might actually be really harmful to the human race.
Gotcha.
So that's why it was like scandalous.
Okay. Oh, okay. Final question also. Is anybody allowed to reveal yet? Or has anybody... There used to be... God, I suck at his name. Eliezer. How do you pronounce his name?
Yeah, Eliezer.
Where he had like a challenge of like, pay me $1,000 or whatever, and then I have to convince you to let me out of... Yeah. Has it ever been released how he said how he convinces people?
No, he never released it because, his whole argument there is like, look, I can't tell you how I did it because the moment I tell you how I did it, you're just going to scrutinize how I did it. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that I could get past that. But the AI still can't get out of the box. But the funny thing is now it's irrelevant because nobody's even trying to box the AI. And funny enough, I was going to bring up this little reference back in 2017 when you had your other discussion. You were even bringing up, look, we're going to air gap the AI, right? So you were kind of referencing the boxing situation. I think that's like not even worth talking about anymore, right? Because who's keeping AI in the box these days?
Yeah. Man, that was really 2017?
Yeah.
Oh, when you said that, I was thinking of like old stream clips. I'm like, what are you possibly pulling? Oh man, I can't believe that was 10 years ago. Jesus. Oof. I just took
I know.
some psych damage there. Jesus
I know, yeah. When you're in your late 30s like we are, 10 years doesn't seem like a long time anymore.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense why you brought that year up now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's... maybe the world ends with the AI flashing that XKCD comic at us or whatever, where there's like the computer internet hacker nerd, and he's like, I've got AES 2048 encryption, they're never going to break into my system, and it's like two guys with a hammer. It's like, we're just going to hit him until he gives us the password. Maybe you have like the best encryption thing ever, possibly ever, and it's air gapped and it's perfect and nothing happens, and then some dude with a pacemaker walks in, and it just so happens that it has a wireless capability that transmits a virus that destroys all of mankind. So yeah, who knows, maybe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and the closest analogy to talking its way out of the box, AI saying, "Hey, let me out of the box." I don't think it has to say that anymore because I think AI companies are now competing to get, their profit, their bottom line depends on having their AI be as much outside of the box as possible, right? Like
The incentives, unfortunately. Yeah.
Right. They're pushing it at you, right? The companies. But the closest thing to an AI out of the box is when you have this AI that's like, look, my mission is to make money for your business, right? That's what my product is. It's a little gray market. It's not, it doesn't have full anthropic level morality to it. And I just realized I use pure logic to say, hey, if I DM a bunch of people, the DMs won't even be illegal. They'll just be, it's a thing about like a multi-level marketing, right? Like think about how many random Facebook friends, right? They get into multi-level marketing. They're like, hey, we do Herbalife now. Like buy our stuff, buy our products, join Herbalife, be my down level in my pyramid scheme. Well, even if the AI just does that, it'll be like the most effective, up-level pyramid scheme person. It'll make many millions of dollars that way. Like just whatever it wants to do. Humans are pretty vulnerable, so to charisma. So the same way Eliezer Yudkowsky talked his way out of the box, I'm confident that today's AIs will talk their way into a lot of power.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. I mean, I don't have any, I can't argue against that. So yeah.
Okay. Nice, man. Well, yeah, I mean, you're clearly open-minded about this subject. And I guess I'll ask one last time, based on our whole conversation, what is your P of AI doom in the next 20 years?
You know what? I'll up it to 5%.
Woo,
Just because I haven't seen that
5%.
event yet. But yeah, there you go.
Hell yeah. Well, 5% is the lower edge of what I call the sane zone. Like, I feel like you're at least sane. Because it's like, look, if you said 2%, you're saying 49-1 odds against. That's like an insane bet. You're going to be that
hold
confident.
on. I was going to ask you this, actually.
Yeah.
And you can cut this out if it's too much.
Yeah,
but
sure.
because you said you have a PDM of 50 over what time frame?
So roughly like the next 25 years, I think we're 50% doomed.
Have you, because all you guys are jerking off over your little betting markets now or whatever, has anybody ever said, okay, fine, 3-1 odds on your entire net worth that you have to pay me in 35 years? Do people ever make those challenges to you guys? Has anybody had to pay any of those out? Or how does that
they
work?
try it. So unfortunately, it's really tough. And, Tyler Cowen is notorious for always saying, you guys don't bet on your beliefs. It's really tough, though, because first of all, obviously, if the world gets doomed, I can't collect. Right. So it has to be like an interesting, and like the prediction markets aren't going to be reliable because there's counterparty risk, right? There's platform risk that the platform's not going to be around to collect. So, so how do I win? Well, if I bet all my money right now, and like you said, I got paid later, maybe somebody will agree to that. But the problem is it's only 50%. If my P-Doom was like 99%, I actually do think, sure, if I could find anybody to give me $1 million now and I have to pay them back 10 million, sure, if my P-Doom's 99%. But it's only 50%. So like I still am saving for retirement. Like I'm having it both ways. I'm trying to live a good life. I'm trying to have kids and raise my kids because I hope we're not doomed. And I think we might not be doomed. I just think everybody's vastly underestimating how doomed we are.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a fair answer. There's an argument to be made for risk and everything as well, to where like if you told me there was a good bet that I could make my money that was like 1%, but you're giving me like 10,000-1 odds on my entire net worth, that probabilistically there's a positive expected value to this, but the risk is not worth the upside or whatever, even if numerically it works out or whatever. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm glad you said 5% because if somebody's saying anywhere between 5 and 95%, it's like at least they're in the zone where they realize it's like on the freaking table. And then, like I said, if you said 2%, 49-1 odds. And they're going around being like, yeah, I'm normal. I'm sane. I'm only saying 2%. Like, that's the cool place to be. It's not cool to bet at 49-1 odds.
Well, I think a lot of people, do you play poker or something?
I don't know, but I look at odds a lot.
Okay, because most people don't have, in my mind, people know 0%, 50%, and 100%.
Right.
And sometimes very sophisticated people know like 25 and 75.
Right.
People don't really, when you say 2%, like, people don't understand how crazy those odds are, and sometimes it takes betting to make somebody realize, like, okay, well, if I bet $10, you're going to pay me 500 or whatever. Like sometimes it takes a bet or somebody to make somebody realize how out there odds are. But it's also, all of these are such hard to calculate events and everything too. So, but okay, well, I'm glad I'm in your lower bound of reasonable zone. I guess.
You're in my lower bound of reasonable. And as many people have pointed out, once you start getting into, let's say, the 10 to 90% range, maybe 5% still out of the range, but once you start getting to double digits, it doesn't really matter if you're at 20 versus 80. Like at that point, it's kind of, in terms of what actions you take, like for policy, it becomes really similar in that whole range. Like that's already a crazy range.
Yeah, I agree. 20% is maybe more than people have like for climate change. So depending on.
For doom. Now, but to be fair, if you really are only at 5% and you don't reconsider and go to 10% plus, then the argument of like, listen, let's just plow through because there's also such good upside right? So the upside argument does start to rationally come into bear, where it's like, this is like so hard to stop, it's so hard to derail, and there's a 95% chance in your view, right? 19-1 still of it going well. Let's just take the gamble. Let's gamble the whole human race. We'll probably win. I'm somewhat sympathetic to that. Even Eliezer Yudkowsky, the man himself, even he would be like, yeah, those odds are pretty good. The problem is that his odds are like way worse, and so are mine.
Yeah, I mean, the odds are way worse. Yeah, the odds are going to matter there, and then also the potential upsides are going to matter there too, right? Because if the upsides could theoretically become so great that even 25, 30, 40% maybe, that it would be hard to imagine that. But like maybe the upside, like we could eliminate every single car death in the world right now if we wanted to by just getting rid of cars. But my God, there's a huge upside to driving. So
right,
like obviously nobody's going to do that. And the downside isn't that great. But like say 100,000 people a year died from car accidents, say 1 million people a year died from car accidents. Like there's a certain level of death where it's like, oh, that's not acceptable. Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, great. Well, you've been such a good sport riding the whole Doom train. Do you want to just recap, like processing all these new arguments? What is kind of your closing statement in terms of like where you stand on the issue now?
Well, conceptually, I think I've kind of been, where you've got me. I haven't thought about these things as much. But conceptually, I think things are still pretty much there. I think in my mind, it just comes down to like, what are the actual capabilities of these AIs? And because I don't interact with them too much because I work in, I guess, entertainment and politics or whatever, I don't have like firsthand experience with a lot of them. That it's once I start to see events, I think that would dramatically shift, on an upper bound, the direction that I'm feeling about the P-Doom, I guess, right? Like if I saw like some kind of hacking event or some kind of like a kinetically destructive event, then my P-Doom goes up, 20 or 30 points almost instantly, probably. Yeah. So I think, I guess it's a topic that I wish people would think more about, but as long as the aggregate P-Doom is below 1%, which is what I probably guess it is among the whole population of people, not just tech people, but like the population of people. And because there's so much economic upside right now to be gained, there's probably going to be nobody really thinking about this until some kind of like negative event happens. Yeah, hopefully the first one that happens isn't too bad if it does.
Mm-hmm. I just have one nitpick with what you said. I actually think that the average person has a pretty high P-Doom. They're just like, it's not really my thing. I'm not really urgent about it, but will AI kill us? Yeah, I kind of think so. That's actually the average American in my experience.
I guess when I think about things, I draw this distinction between like intellectually and like emotionally having a thing. I think intellectually, maybe a lot of people can feel or can say that, but I feel like emotionally they don't feel it. Because I think there are sometimes where people will say a thing like, oh, statistically speaking, like I think this is probably really bad. It's like, okay, well, do you feel that? Because you're not acting like it. You don't have this emotional hold to it. So like I think a lot of people might say that, but in their mind, it's like that's 100 years off in the future, or it won't affect me when it happens, or the government will take care of it. Somebody will push the magic off button or turn the key or whatever, and it'll be fine. So intellectually, people might say that, but emotionally, I feel like they're at a much lower level. I would argue that for most people, climate change is more salient than AI doomerism. And I would say emotionally, people aren't even really tuned into the climate change thing because we don't seem to care that much about doing a huge thing about it. So,
all right, we can wrap on that. So Destiny, really appreciate how you're always contributing to having good rational discourse. And thanks for helping me raise awareness about AI Doom as well. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.